Velociraptor pack rescues abandoned baby. Then a T-Rex joins them. How will this story escalate? To find out, watch the video to the end. But first, please subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications to get more stories like this. The dense, prehistoric jungle hummed with life as sunlight filtered through the thick canopy, dappling the forest floor with golden light. Deep within, a pack of velociraptors prowled silently, their keen senses alert to every movement. The leader of the pack, a sleek and intelligent raptor named Sable, stopped suddenly, her nostrils flaring as she caught an unfamiliar scent on the wind. It wasn't prey, this scent was faint, almost fragile. She tilted her head and let out a low growl, signaling the others to follow. The pack moved as one, their steps calculated and their eyes scanning the underbrush. It wasn't long before they came upon the source of the scent. Lying in a nest of trampled leaves was a tiny creature, unlike anything they had seen before. It was a baby dinosaur, barely hatched, its soft skin free of the protective scales that would come later. The little one was trembling, its cries barely audible over the rustle of the jungle. Its mother was nowhere to be seen. Sable stepped closer, her sharp eyes narrowing as she observed the baby. It was a hadrosaur, a plant eater, and clearly not one of their own. The other raptors in the pack hissed in confusion, their instincts telling them to leave the vulnerable creature behind. But Sable hesitated. She sniffed the baby again, sensing its fear and desperation. Against her instincts, she crouched low and gently nudged the baby with her snout. The tiny creature cooed weakly, leaning into her warmth. One of the younger raptors, a brash male named Fong, growled in protest. "Why waste time on a weakling? It's not our kind. Let the jungle take care of it." Sable turned sharply, her golden eyes flashing. With a low, rumbling growl, she silenced Fong and the others. She was the leader and her decisions were final. The baby needed protection and something deep within her, a maternal instinct she hadn't known existed, compelled her to act. Carefully, Sable scooped up the baby in her claws and signaled for the pack to move. They would take the infant back to their den, where it would be safe, at least for now. The journey back to the den was slow and tense. The baby's soft cries echoed through the jungle, attracting unwanted attention. Sable remained vigilant, her sharp senses tuned to every sound. The pack followed reluctantly, their unease growing with each step. They were hunters, not caretakers, and this was unfamiliar territory for them. As they neared the den, a shadow passed overhead, casting a chill over the group. Sable froze, her claws tightening around the baby. Above them, a massive pterosaur circled, its beady eyes fixed on the vulnerable infant. With a piercing screech, it dove toward them, its talons outstretched. Sable reacted instantly, leaping into the air with the baby clutched protectively in her claws. She twisted mid-leap, slashing at the pterosaur with her powerful hind legs. The creature shrieked and veered away, its attack thwarted. The pack watched in stunned silence as Sable landed gracefully, the baby unharmed in her grasp. The near attack solidified her resolve. The baby was defenseless, and without her, it wouldn't survive another day in the jungle. She led the pack to the den, a hidden cavern nestled beneath a cluster of rocky outcroppings. It was secure and well protected, the perfect place to raise their young, and now their unexpected guest. Inside the den, Sable carefully placed the baby on a bed of soft moss. The tiny dinosaur blinked up at her with wide, innocent eyes, its fear slowly giving way to trust. Sable nuzzled it gently, her growls low and soothing. The rest of the pack watched from a distance, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Fong, still disgruntled, paced near the entrance. "This is a mistake," he muttered. "It's not one of us. What happens when it grows? When it becomes a threat?" Sable ignored him, her focus entirely on the baby. She had made her decision, and nothing would change her mind. The infant had a chance now, and she would do everything in her power to ensure its survival. As the days passed, the baby, whom Sable named Leaf, for the way it had been found nestled among the foliage, began to thrive. It grew stronger under her care, its once feeble cries replaced by playful chirps. The pack, though initially wary, slowly warmed to the little one. Even Fong, despite his gruff demeanor, found himself amused by Leaf's antics. Leaf, in turn, formed a unique bond with the pack. It mimicked their movements, stumbling awkwardly as it tried to follow their swift, graceful strides. It learned to recognize their calls and responded with its own, creating a strange but beautiful harmony within the group. But the jungle was unforgiving, and peace was always fleeting. One evening, as the pack rested near the den, the ground began to tremble. Sable's ears perked up, and she let out a warning growl. The others quickly gathered around her, their eyes scanning the trees. From the shadows emerged a massive figure, its footsteps shaking the earth. A Tyrannosaurus Rex, its scarred hide a testament to countless battles, loomed before them. Its yellow eyes locked onto the pack, and its nostrils flared as it caught Leaf's scent. The pack bristled, their bodies tense and ready to fight. Sable stepped forward, positioning herself between the T-Rex and Leaf. She let out a ferocious roar, her claws digging into the ground. The T-Rex responded with a deafening bellow, its jaws snapping menacingly. Leaf, sensing the danger, cowered behind Sable, its tiny body trembling. The pack closed ranks, their loyalty to their leader unshakable. They knew they were no match for the T-Rex, but they would fight to protect their own. The standoff lasted only seconds but felt like an eternity. Just as the T-Rex began to advance, a sudden noise broke the tension. From the trees came the sound of rustling leaves and snapping branches. A herd of hadrosaurs emerged, their presence drawing the T-Rex's attention. The pack seized the opportunity, retreating to the safety of the den. Sable scooped up Leaf once more, her heart pounding as she led her family away from the chaos. The T-Rex, distracted by the hadrosaurs, let them go, its thundering roars fading into the distance. That night, as the pack huddled together in the den, Sable reflected on the day's events. The jungle was a dangerous place, and Leaf's presence had only heightened the risks. But as she looked at the little one, now sleeping soundly beside her, she knew it was worth it. Leaf had given her pack something they hadn't known they needed, a sense of purpose beyond survival. Together, they had faced the challenges of the jungle, and together, they would continue to endure. Little did they know, the encounter with the T-Rex was only the beginning of a journey that would change their lives forever. The jungle stirred uneasily as dawn broke, the morning sunlight slicing through the dense canopy. The air was heavy with tension after the previous day's encounter with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Sable was the first to awaken, her golden eyes scanning the surroundings for any signs of danger. Leaf was curled up beside her, its tiny frame rising and falling with each breath, blissfully unaware of the threats lurking outside. The pack stirred slowly, their movements quiet and calculated. Even Fong, whose defiance had yet to subside, moved cautiously, as if the presence of the T-Rex still loomed in the air. Sable nudged Leaf awake, her growls low and reassuring. It was time to teach the young one how to navigate the jungle. For the past few days, Sable had been introducing Leaf to the basics of survival: how to identify safe food, recognize warning signs, and sense danger. While Leaf was not a predator, its survival depended on learning the instincts that the pack had perfected over generations. Today would be another lesson, though Sable was keenly aware of the risks they would face outside the safety of the den. As they ventured into the jungle, the pack moved in a tight formation, with Leaf nestled safely in the center. The group's dynamic had shifted subtly since Leaf's arrival. Where once they had operated purely as a hunting unit, they now functioned more like a family, their movements fluid and protective. Sable led the way, her keen senses alert to every sound and movement. Leaf trailed behind her, mimicking her steps with clumsy enthusiasm. The little one's determination drew amused chirps from the younger raptors, even Fong, who couldn't entirely suppress a smirk. Their destination was a nearby stream, a place where the pack often quenched their thirst and occasionally hunted smaller prey. The journey was uneventful at first, but as they neared the water's edge, Sable's ears perked up. She froze, signaling the others to do the same. Her nostrils flared as she caught an all-too-familiar scent. The T-Rex. The pack tensed, their eyes darting through the underbrush. Sable motioned for them to retreat, but before they could move, a deafening roar shattered the silence. The T-Rex emerged from the trees, its massive frame casting a shadow over the clearing. Its yellow eyes locked onto the pack, and its nostrils flared as it caught Leaf's scent once more. The pack bristled, their bodies forming a protective circle around Leaf. Sable stepped forward, her growls low and threatening. The T-Rex bared its teeth, its powerful jaws snapping as it advanced. The ground trembled with each step, the air thick with the predator's dominance. Leaf let out a frightened chirp, cowering behind Sable. The T-Rex's gaze flicked to the little one, its interest peaked. Sable's growls intensified, her claws digging into the earth. She knew they couldn't outrun the T-Rex, but she also knew they couldn't fight it head-on. Just as the tension reached its peak, an unexpected sound broke through the chaos. From the trees came a series of high-pitched screeches, sharp and rhythmic. The T-Rex paused, its head turning toward the noise. Sable seized the opportunity, letting out a series of urgent growls to her pack. They moved quickly, retreating toward the stream and away from the predator. The screeches grew louder, and soon the source emerged. A pack of velociraptors, larger and more aggressive than Sable's group. They had been tracking the T-Rex, their coordinated movements suggesting they had faced such a foe before. The two groups of raptors exchanged glances, a silent understanding passing between them. Sable's pack reached the stream, their breaths heavy and their bodies tense. Leaf clung to Sable, its tiny frame trembling. The other pack, though intimidating, had bought them time to escape. Sable watched as they engaged the T-Rex, their movements swift and calculated. She knew they wouldn't be able to defeat it, but their distraction would give her pack a chance to survive. As the sounds of the battle faded into the distance, Sable turned her attention back to Leaf. The little one was shaken but unharmed, its wide eyes filled with a mixture of fear and trust. Sable nuzzled it gently, her growls low and soothing. The rest of the pack gathered around, their exhaustion evident but their loyalty unwavering. Fong, who had remained silent throughout the ordeal, finally spoke. "That thing is going to keep coming for us," he said, his voice tinged with frustration. "It won't stop until it gets what it wants." Sable met his gaze, her expression calm but firm. "Then we'll be ready," she growled. "Leaf is one of us now, and we don't abandon our own." Fong huffed but didn't argue further. Despite his doubts, he couldn't deny the bond that had formed between Leaf and the pack. The little one had become a symbol of their resilience, a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, there was room for compassion. The next few days were tense as the pack remained on high alert. They avoided the stream and ventured deeper into the jungle, seeking a new territory where they could raise Leaf in peace. The journey was arduous, with limited food and constant threats. But Leaf's presence brought a sense of purpose to the group, driving them forward even in the face of adversity. Leaf, too, began to adapt to its new life. It learned to recognize danger and follow the pack signals, its once clumsy movements growing more confident. Its playful nature brought moments of levity to the group, easing the tension that had settled over them. One evening, as the pack rested in a secluded clearing, Leaf began to mimic Sable's hunting posture. It crouched low, its tiny body trembling with focus as it eyed a beetle scuttling across the ground. The other raptors watched in amusement as Leaf pounced, its small claws landing just shy of the insect. The baby let out a triumphant chirp, oblivious to its failure. Sable let out a soft growl of approval, nuzzling Leaf affectionately. The little one's determination was a source of pride for her, a testament to its resilience. Even Fong couldn't suppress a chuckle, his earlier doubts slowly giving way to a grudging respect. But the jungle was never silent for long. As the pack prepared to move again, the distant sound of heavy footsteps reached their ears. The T-Rex was back, its relentless pursuit unyielding. Sable's heart sank as she realized their time was running out. They couldn't keep running forever. As the pack braced for another confrontation, Leaf did something unexpected. It stepped forward, its tiny frame trembling but its eyes filled with determination. The little one let out a series of high-pitched cries, its voice surprisingly loud for its size. The pack watched in stunned silence as Leaf's cries echoed through the jungle. To their surprise, the sound was met with a response. From the distance came a series of deep, resonant bellows, growing louder with each passing moment. Sable's eyes widened as the source of the bellows emerged. A herd of hadrosaurs, their massive frames moving swiftly through the trees. Leaf's cries had summoned its kind, and they had come to its aid. The T-Rex hesitated as the herd closed in, its attention shifting to the larger prey. The hadrosaurs formed a protective circle around Leaf, their deep bellows filling the air. Sable and her pack stepped back, their role in the little one's life nearing its end. Leaf turned to Sable, its wide eyes filled with gratitude. The bond they had formed would never be forgotten, even as Leaf returned to its rightful place among its kind. Sable nuzzled the little one last time, her growls soft and affectionate. As the hadrosaurs led Leaf away, Sable and her pack watched in silence. Their journey had been long and arduous, but it had taught them the value of trust, loyalty, and compassion. Leaf had given them something they hadn't known they needed, a sense of purpose beyond survival. And as the jungle settled into quiet once more, Sable knew that, no matter what challenges lay ahead, her pack would face them together, stronger than ever. The jungle air grew tense as the heavy steps of the T-Rex echoed in the distance, fading into the thick canopy. Sable watched as the herd of hadrosaurs disappeared with Leaf nestled safely in their protective circle. Her golden eyes lingered on the little one, who turned its small head to glance back at the pack one last time. It was a moment of bittersweet parting, a bond forged through survival and trust now transitioning to a new chapter for both Leaf and the pack. Sable exhaled deeply, the weight of relief mixed with the ache of goodbye settling in her chest. Her pack stood silently, their expressions mirroring her emotions. Even Fong, who had initially questioned Leaf's place among them, seemed contemplative. "Do you think it'll survive out there?" Fong asked, his voice breaking the silence. Sable turned to him, her expression calm yet resolute. "It's stronger than it looks," she replied. "And it has a chance now, thanks to all of us." Fong nodded, his usual sharp tone absent. The pack's unity had been tested and solidified during their time with Leaf, and while their journey with the little one had ended, its impact on them was undeniable. The pack spent the next few days regaining their strength and scouting for a new territory. Without the immediate threat of the T-Rex looming over them, the atmosphere within the group felt lighter. The younger raptors, Ember and Claw, began to playfully chase each other through the underbrush, their chirps and trills filling the air. Even Fong's tension seemed to ease as he took on a more active role in leading the hunts alongside Sable. One afternoon, while exploring a dense area of the jungle, the pack stumbled upon a serene clearing. The ground was soft and mossy, dotted with vibrant flowers and bordered by a sparkling stream. Towering trees provided ample shade, and the area seemed untouched by larger predators. It was a place of rare tranquility, a perfect spot to establish a new den. Sable prowled the perimeter, her sharp eyes scanning for any signs of danger. Satisfied that the clearing was safe, she let out a series of low growls, signaling to the pack that this would be their new home. The others chirped in agreement, their relief palpable. As they began to settle in, Ember and Claw busied themselves with clearing debris and marking the area. Fong took on the task of scouting nearby hunting grounds, his usual skepticism replaced by a quiet determination to contribute to the pack's survival. Though the pack's new home offered safety and resources, the jungle's challenges were never far away. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the clearing was bathed in a warm, golden glow, the pack heard an unusual sound. It was faint at first, a rhythmic tapping almost like rain, but it grew louder, echoing through the trees. Sable's ears perked up, her body tensing as she signaled for the pack to stay alert. The tapping turned into a steady rumble, and soon the source became clear. A group of armored ankylosaurs emerged from the jungle, their heavy footsteps shaking the ground. Their massive, spiked tails swayed with each step, and their plated backs glinted in the fading sunlight. The ankylosaurs were not predators, but their sheer size and strength made them formidable. Sable observed them cautiously, her growls low and steady. The pack watched in silence as the group passed through the clearing, their presence a stark reminder of the jungle's unpredictable nature. As the ankylosaurs disappeared into the distance, Ember let out a curious chirp. "Do you think they were running from something?" she asked, her voice tinged with unease. Sable didn't respond immediately, her eyes scanning the horizon. "Possibly," she said finally. "Or perhaps they're simply migrating. Either way, we need to stay vigilant." The next morning, the pack awoke to find their clearing untouched. The night had passed without incident, and the jungle seemed calm once more. Sable took this as a sign to continue strengthening their new home. She assigned tasks to each member of the pack, ensuring that the area was well defended and that their resources were plentiful. Fong and Claw ventured into the nearby woods to hunt, while Ember and Sable worked on reinforcing the den. The younger raptors had grown more adept at working together, their bond strengthened by their shared experiences. Even Fong's once prickly demeanor had softened, his respect for Sable evident in his actions. As the day progressed, the pack's efforts paid off. They returned to the clearing with a successful hunt, their bellies full and their spirits high. The once distant threat of the T-Rex now felt like a distant memory, replaced by a sense of newfound stability. But stability in the jungle was often fleeting. That evening, as the pack rested under the starry sky, a new sound disrupted the peace. It was a low, guttural growl, unlike anything they had heard before. The pack sprang to their feet, their bodies tense and their eyes scanning the darkness. From the shadows emerged a creature unlike any they had encountered. A massive Spinosaurus, its elongated snout and sail-like back casting an eerie silhouette. Its eyes glinted with predatory intent as it stepped into the clearing, its powerful claws tearing through the ground. Sable positioned herself at the front of the pack, her growls fierce and unyielding. The Spinosaurus let out a deafening roar, its sheer size dwarfing even the T-Rex. The pack bristled, their unity tested once again. The Spinosaurus advanced slowly, its movements calculated. It was clear that this was a creature accustomed to dominance, and it saw the pack as no more than a nuisance. But Sable refused to back down. She let out a series of sharp growls, signaling to her pack to hold their ground. Fong stepped up beside her, his claws digging into the earth. "We can't take that thing head-on," he growled. "But we can outsmart it." Sable nodded, her mind racing as she formulated a plan. She knew that their strength lay in their coordination and agility. With a sharp chirp, she directed Ember and Claw to flank the Spinosaurus, while she and Fong distracted it from the front. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance. As Ember and Claw darted into the underbrush, Sable and Fong faced the Spinosaurus head-on. They circled the massive predator, their movements swift and unpredictable. The Spinosaurus lashed out with its claws, narrowly missing Fong as he leapt out of reach. From the shadows, Ember and Claw launched their attack, targeting the Spinosaurus's vulnerable legs. Their sharp claws tore into its tough hide, eliciting a roar of rage. The Spinosaurus turned to face them, giving Sable and Fong an opening to strike. The pack's coordinated efforts began to wear the Spinosaurus down. Its massive frame moved slower with each attack, its roars of frustration filling the clearing. But just as victory seemed within reach, the Spinosaurus reared back, its powerful tail swinging toward Ember. Sable's heart raced as she saw the danger. With a burst of speed, she leapt between Ember and the tail, her body absorbing the impact. The force sent her crashing to the ground, pain radiating through her side. The pack froze, their eyes wide with shock. Ember rushed to Sable's side, her chirps frantic. But Sable pushed herself up, her growls defiant. She refused to let the pack see her falter. The Spinosaurus, sensing the pack's momentary hesitation, let out a triumphant roar. But before it could advance, a new sound echoed through the jungle, a series of deep, resonant bellows. The ground trembled as the hadrosaur herd returned, their massive frames moving with purpose. The Spinosaurus turned to face the new threat, its confidence wavering. The hadrosaurs formed a wall of muscle and horn, their bellows a warning to the predator. The Spinosaurus hesitated, its predatory instincts at odds with the overwhelming force before it. Sable watched in awe as the hadrosaurs charged, their combined strength driving the Spinosaurus back. The predator let out a final roar before retreating into the shadows, its dominance challenged for the first time. As the hadrosaurs regrouped, Sable let out a low growl of gratitude. The jungle was a place of constant challenges, but it was also a place of unexpected alliances. The pack's bond with Leaf had forged a connection that extended beyond their small group, reminding them that survival was often a collective effort. As the sun rose over the clearing, the pack gathered around Sable, their loyalty unwavering. Ember nuzzled her gently, her chirps filled with gratitude. Fong, too, offered a rare nod of respect, his doubts about their unity long gone. Sable looked around at her pack, her heart swelling with pride. They had faced countless challenges together, and they had emerged stronger each time. The jungle would never be without its dangers, but as long as they stood together, they would endure. The clearing, once a place of uncertainty, had become a symbol of hope, a testament to the pack's resilience and the bonds that sustained them. And as the jungle awakened to a new day, Sable knew that their journey was far from over. But for now, they had found a place to call home. The jungle had returned to its usual calm, the echoes of the Spinosaurus's retreat fading into the distance. The hadrosaurs lingered in the clearing for a while longer, their massive presence reassuring the velociraptors. Sable rested on the soft moss, her body still aching from the impact of the Spinosaurus's tail. Ember and Claw stayed close to her side, their youthful energy tempered by concern for their leader. Fong stood at the edge of the clearing, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Though the immediate threat was gone, his instincts told him that the jungle's dangers were never far away. He glanced back at Sable, his usual sharp demeanor softened by a rare expression of respect. "You took a hit for the pack," Fong said, his voice low but filled with sincerity. "I underestimated you, Sable." Sable let out a soft growl, her golden eyes meeting Fong's. "It's not about me," she replied. "It's about all of us. We survive because we protect each other." Fong nodded, the weight of her words settling over him. For the first time, he truly understood the strength that came from unity. As the day wore on, the pack began to rebuild their sense of normalcy. The hadrosaurs eventually moved on, their presence no longer necessary now that the Spinosaurus had been driven away. Sable watched them go, her heart swelling with gratitude for the bond they had formed with Leaf and its herd. It was a reminder that even in the harshest environments, connections could be forged in the unlikeliest of circumstances. The pack's focus shifted to securing their clearing. Though the Spinosaurus had been driven off, Sable knew that other predators would eventually test their territory. She assigned tasks to each member of the pack, ensuring that their defenses were strong and their resources plentiful. Fong took the lead in scouting the perimeter, his sharp instincts and experience making him an invaluable asset. Ember and Claw worked tirelessly to reinforce the den, their youthful energy channeled into productive efforts. Even Sable, despite her injuries, refused to remain idle. She directed the pack with a quiet determination, her leadership unwavering. As the days turned into weeks, the pack's new home began to thrive. The clearing transformed into a sanctuary, a place of safety and stability in a jungle fraught with danger. The stream provided a constant source of water, and the abundance of prey in the surrounding woods ensured that the pack was well fed. The younger raptors, Ember and Claw, grew more confident in their roles within the pack. They often sparred playfully, their chirps and trills filling the air as they honed their skills. Fong, too, seemed to have found a sense of purpose. His initial skepticism towards Sable's leadership had given way to respect, and he worked tirelessly to ensure the pack's survival. Sable watched her pack with pride, her heart swelling with gratitude for the bond they had forged. They were no longer just a group of individuals struggling to survive. They were a family, bound together by trust and loyalty. One evening, as the pack rested under the starry sky, a new sound reached their ears. It was faint at first, a high-pitched squeal that seemed to come from the direction of the stream. Sable's ears perked up, her body tensing as she listened intently. The rest of the pack quickly followed suit, their senses on high alert. "What is it?" Ember asked, her voice tinged with curiosity. "I'm not sure," Sable replied, her tone cautious. "But we need to investigate. Stay close and stay quiet." The pack moved as one, their movements swift and silent as they made their way toward the stream. The sound grew louder as they approached, and soon its source became clear. Near the water's edge, a small, injured creature lay struggling on the ground. It was a young pterosaur, its delicate wings battered and torn. The sight of the vulnerable creature stirred a mix of emotions within the pack: curiosity, caution, and an unspoken sense of responsibility. Sable stepped forward, her golden eyes assessing the situation. The pterosaur let out a weak cry, its eyes wide with fear as it tried to move away. But its injuries were severe, and it could barely lift itself off the ground. "Is it dangerous?" Claw asked, his voice filled with uncertainty. "No," Sable replied, her tone calm but firm. "It's scared and hurt. We need to help it." Fong's expression darkened. "Another stray," he muttered. "We're not a rescue squad, Sable. We have our own survival to think about." Sable turned to Fong, her gaze unwavering. "Survival isn't just about looking out for ourselves," she said. "It's about doing what's right." Fong let out a low growl but didn't argue further. He knew better than to challenge Sable's conviction. The pack worked together to help the injured pterosaur. Sable gently nudged the creature toward the stream, encouraging it to drink from the cool, clear water. Ember and Claw gathered soft moss and leaves to create a makeshift nest, while Fong kept watch for any signs of danger. As the night wore on, the pterosaur began to calm down, its cries growing quieter. It seemed to sense that the pack meant no harm, and it allowed them to care for it without resistance. Sable stayed close by its side, her presence a source of comfort for the fragile creature. The pack's decision to help the pterosaur marked another turning point in their journey. It was a reminder that even in a world driven by survival, compassion could be a source of strength. The jungle was a place of constant challenges, but it was also a place where bonds could be forged and lives could be changed. As the days passed, the pterosaur began to recover under the pack's care. Its injuries slowly healed, and it grew strong enough to stand and flap its wings. The pack watched with a mix of pride and awe as the once vulnerable creature regained its vitality. One morning, as the sun rose over the clearing, the pterosaur spread its wings and took flight. It soared high above the jungle, its cries of gratitude echoing through the air. The pack watched in silence, their hearts swelling with a sense of fulfillment. Sable turned to her pack, a rare smile gracing her features. "We did something good," she said softly. "And that matters." Fong let out a low growl, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe you're right," he admitted. "Maybe there's more to survival than just staying alive." The pack's bond had grown stronger with each challenge they faced, and their actions had left a lasting impact on the world around them. As they returned to their clearing, they knew that their journey was far from over. But for now, they had found a sense of purpose, a reason to keep moving forward in a world that was both beautiful and unforgiving. The pack's life in the clearing had settled into a rhythm. The jungle, though still wild and untamed, seemed less daunting now that they had established their territory and built a home that was uniquely their own. Yet, deep within Sable's heart, she knew that the jungle always had a way of testing even the most prepared. It was during one of Fong's perimeter patrols that the first signs of trouble emerged. The air was unusually still, and the jungle's usual chorus of sounds, the chirping of birds, the rustling of leaves, was eerily absent. Fong paused, his sharp eyes scanning the dense foliage around him. His instincts screamed that something wasn't right. Before he could investigate further, a low rumble echoed through the jungle. It was a sound Fong knew all too well, the deep, guttural growl of a predator, and not just any predator. His heart sank as he caught the faint scent of something large, something powerful. Fong returned to the clearing as fast as his legs could carry him. "We have a problem," he announced, his voice low but urgent. Sable looked up from where she was resting, her golden eyes narrowing. "What is it?" "A rex," Fong replied, his tone grim. "And it's close." The mention of a rex sent a ripple of tension through the pack. Ember and Claw exchanged nervous glances, their youthful confidence faltering. Even Fong, with all his experience, seemed unsettled. Sable, however, remained calm, her mind already working to formulate a plan. "Is it alone?" she asked. Fong nodded. "As far as I could tell. But that doesn't mean it's any less dangerous." Sable rose to her feet, her injuries from the Spinosaurus encounter still healing but forgotten in the face of this new threat. "We need to be ready," she said, her voice steady. "Fong, keep watch on the perimeter. Ember and Claw, help me reinforce the den. We need to make sure we have a safe place to retreat to if things go wrong." The pack moved with purpose, their fear overshadowed by the urgency of the situation. Sable led the effort, her calm and decisive leadership keeping them focused. She knew that panic was their greatest enemy. If they were to survive, they needed to work together. As the day turned to evening, the tension in the air grew thicker. The distant roars of the rex were growing louder, a chilling reminder of the predator that was drawing ever closer. The pack had done all they could to prepare, but Sable knew that their defenses would only hold for so long against such a formidable foe. As darkness fell, the rex finally appeared at the edge of the clearing. Its massive form was illuminated by the moonlight, every muscle rippling with power as it stepped into view. Its eyes gleamed with a predatory hunger, and its roar shook the ground beneath the pack's feet. Sable stood at the front of the pack, her body tense but unyielding. She knew that running would only make them easier targets. If they were to survive, they needed to stand their ground. The rex let out another deafening roar, its gaze fixed on the pack. Sable met its eyes, her golden gaze unwavering. She took a step forward, her movements slow and deliberate, and let out a low growl of her own. It was a challenge, a declaration that the pack would not go down without a fight. The rex paused, seemingly surprised by Sable's defiance. It lowered its massive head, sniffing the air as if trying to assess the situation. The rest of the pack stood behind Sable, their fear overshadowed by their trust in their leader. Even Fong, who had once doubted her, stood by her side, his growl echoing hers. For a moment, it seemed as if the rex might retreat. But then, with a sudden burst of speed, it charged toward the pack, its powerful legs shaking the ground with each step. "Scatter!" Sable commanded, her voice sharp and clear. The pack moved as one, their bodies darting in different directions to confuse the predator. The rex hesitated, its gaze shifting between the fleeing raptors. Sable took the opportunity to draw its attention, letting out a sharp cry before darting toward the den. The rex followed, its massive form crashing through the jungle as it pursued her. Sable's heart pounded in her chest, but she refused to let fear overtake her. She led the rex toward the stream, her agile movements keeping her just out of reach. As the rex neared the water's edge, Sable suddenly veered to the side, her body skidding to a halt on the slippery rocks. The rex tried to follow, but its massive weight caused it to lose its footing. With a thunderous crash, it tumbled into the stream, its roars of frustration echoing through the jungle. Sable didn't wait to see if it would recover. She darted back toward the clearing, her legs burning with effort. When she arrived, she found the rest of the pack waiting, their eyes wide with relief. "It's in the stream," Sable panted. "But it won't stay there for long. We need to leave." The pack didn't hesitate. They followed Sable as she led them away from the clearing, their movements swift and silent. They didn't know where they were going, but they trusted Sable to guide them to safety. The jungle was a labyrinth of shadows and sounds, but Sable navigated it with the precision of someone who knew it intimately. She led the pack to a new clearing, this one smaller but well hidden by dense foliage. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do. As the pack settled into their new home, the weight of the night's events began to sink in. They had faced one of the jungle's most fearsome predators and lived to tell the tale. It was a testament to their strength, their unity, and their unwavering determination. Sable looked at her pack, her heart swelling with pride. They had been through so much, but they had come out stronger on the other side. She knew that the jungle would continue to test them, but she also knew that they would face whatever came their way together. For now, they were safe, and in the unforgiving world of the jungle, that was enough. As the pack settled into the new clearing, a strange sense of quiet descended upon them. The jungle, usually alive with the songs of nocturnal creatures, seemed subdued, almost as if it was holding its breath. Sable took this moment of calm to assess the pack. They were tired but unharmed, their spirits buoyed by their successful escape from the wrecks. Fong approached her, his expression a mix of admiration and concern. "You led us well tonight, Sable, but we can't keep running. This jungle, it's relentless." Sable nodded, her golden eyes thoughtful. "You're right, Fong. We need a place where we can not just survive, but thrive. A true sanctuary." Her words resonated with the pack. They had spent so much time fleeing, fighting, and enduring the jungle's trials. The thought of finding a safe haven, a place where they could finally rest, was almost too good to be true. But Sable wasn't one to chase illusions. She believed in creating her own reality, no matter how difficult it might be. Over the next few days, Sable led the pack deeper into the jungle, searching for this sanctuary. They moved cautiously, avoiding the trails of larger predators and keeping to the denser parts of the forest where they could easily hide. Along the way, they encountered challenges. A sudden storm that turned the ground into a treacherous mire, a colony of venomous insects whose territory they accidentally stumbled into, and the ever-present scarcity of food. Through it all, Sable's leadership remained unwavering. She made decisions quickly and decisively, her calm demeanor inspiring confidence in the pack. Fong's respect for her grew with each passing day, and even Ember and Claw, who had once been skeptical of her abilities, began to see her as the heart of their small family. It was on the 4th day of their journey that they found it, a hidden valley, surrounded by towering cliffs that formed a natural barrier against intruders. The valley was lush and green, its air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the gentle hum of bees. A crystal-clear stream wound its way through the landscape, providing a steady source of water. It was everything they had hoped for and more. Sable stood at the edge of the valley, her heart swelling with a mixture of relief and triumph. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with quiet conviction. "This is home." The pack explored the valley with a sense of wonder, their exhaustion forgotten as they discovered its many treasures. There were caves in the cliffs that provided shelter, fruit-laden trees that promised nourishment, and an abundance of small prey animals. The valley was a paradise, a place where they could finally let their guard down. For the first time in what felt like forever, the pack allowed themselves to relax. They played in the stream, their laughter echoing through the valley. Ember and Claw chased each other through the tall grass, their youthful energy infectious. Even Fong, who was usually reserved, joined in the fun, his gruff demeanor softening as he watched his pack find joy in their new home. Sable, however, remained vigilant. She knew that even the most perfect sanctuary could be threatened. The jungle was unpredictable, and she refused to let her guard down completely. But as she watched her pack thrive, a sense of peace settled over her. For now, they were safe, and that was all that mattered. The days turned into weeks, and the pack flourished in their new home. They established routines, strengthening their bond and learning to work together as a cohesive unit. Sable continued to lead with wisdom and courage, her decisions always guided by what was best for the pack. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Sable gathered the pack around the stream. It had become their favorite spot, a place where they could unwind and share stories of their adventures. "We've been through so much together," Sable began, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We've faced dangers I never thought we could overcome. But we did it because we trusted each other, because we stood together as a family." The pack listened intently, their eyes reflecting the glow of the setting sun. Even Ember and Claw, who were usually restless, sat still, hanging on to Sable's every word. "This valley is more than just a place to live," Sable continued. "It's a symbol of everything we've fought for. It's a reminder that no matter how tough things get, we can overcome anything as long as we have each other. Fong nodded, his expression one of pride. You're right, Sable. This place, it's more than a home. It's a new beginning. The pack let out a chorus of agreement, their voices blending into a harmonious sound that echoed through the valley. In that moment, they weren't just survivors of the jungle's trials. They were a family, bound by a shared journey and an unbreakable bond. As the stars began to twinkle in the night sky, the pack settled into their dens, their hearts light and their spirits high. Sable stood at the edge of the stream, gazing at her reflection in the water. She had come so far from the uncertain leader who had first taken on the responsibility of guiding the pack. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The jungle would always be wild and untamed, but Sable knew that as long as they faced it together, there was nothing they couldn't overcome. And as she turned to join her pack, a feeling of hope blossomed within her, a hope that their best days were still ahead.